Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel, the Great Malabite Ifeni.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Yes, yesterday was budget day, and the newspapers, no prize for guessing the headlines of major newspapers in Nigeria. These days, Nigeria's newspaper of record, the lead story: National Assembly pledges speedy consideration, aggressive oversight of Tinubu's 27.5 trillion naira budget. Fiscal document projects 9.92 trillion recurrent expenditure, 8.7 trillion capital expenditure, 8.25 trillion naira for debt service, 9.18 trillion deficit. To finance deficit with 7.83 trillion new borrowings, expect 298.49 billion naira from privatization proceeds, 1.05 trillion naira foreign loans. Akpabio hints at plans to merge, unbundle ministries, departments, and agencies. Nigeria expects quick, sustainable solutions to economic hardship. Abbas tell President, the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, Speaker of the House of Representatives, telling the President, PDP, Tinubu's budget deceitful, strangulating, hopeless. Opposition party says fiscal plan has no mechanism for economic recovery. Well, other newspapers are also reporting this story, but just above the masthead of this day, budget. Finance Minister Defense President borrowing plan 2024 budget proposal based on realistic assumption, says Wale Edu, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy. Now, the Business Day newspaper reporting federal government's 9 trillion budget deficit raises concern despite fuel subsidy removal. Analysts say oil production target could be a stretch. Now, another story beside the photograph there, ICT sector slumps to 5-year low as investment slow. At the time, we have a Ministry of Digital Economy. I think we need to see the Minister of Digital Economy, well, he has a lot of plans up his sleeves, roll out these plans, because according to this report, investment in ICT has come to an all-time low, 5-year low, as according to that report. Now, the Punch newspaper, 2024 budget, defense, education, roads get 6.9 trillion, federal government eyes 10.4 trillion tax. The Nation newspaper also has that story, defense, education, health, top Tinubu's 27.5 trillion budget. Now, above the masthead of the Nation newspaper, Ayedatiwa to preside over Ondo ESCO meeting today. Well, some progress in Ondo State. At least somebody is taking charge. The Tinubu solution is working. He has found a political solution to the crisis in Ondo State. So if the deputy governor is presiding in the ESCO meeting today, then they're making some progress. At least governance, we can say welcome back to governance in Ondo State. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper. Yes, I just leave the lead story, the same budget story. But above the the lead story, 800 litigations. Wike discards FCTA lawyers, hires 24 senior advocates of Nigeria, defends 61.6 billion 2023 supplementary budget. Now, below the photograph there, old notes remain legal tender beyond December 31. The Supreme Court has ruled. So we'll continue to use the old and the new notes, but I think in the days ahead, we need a proper clarification on what we want to achieve going forward. We want the new notes, phase out the old ones. If you don't want the new notes, then let's do something. But it doesn't look like, but at least Nigerians have the assurance now that nobody is going to reject whatever note you present for transaction, old or new. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, I take one story just from the beside the photograph there. Federal government, US hold talks on funding mining projects in Nigeria. Yes, Dele Alake, Minister of Solid Minerals, doing some work there, and we hope we'll soon start seeing the results. But we must take care of those children who are being used for artisanal mining in many parts of the north. Danger to those children's health, danger to the environment, and of course, fleecing the economy by illegal miners. Now, the Guardian newspaper, the lead story, COP 2028, again, Nigeria and others negotiate right to just transition, carbon emissions per capita by country there. Fulfill your stance on federalism, Afenifere tells Tinubu, and of course, other stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. 14% Nigerian women experience fiscal violence. Well, the other day I read somewhere about the percentage of men who were also being victims of domestic violence, being beaten by their wives. So, but violence to whatever gender, women or men, not acceptable. Now, if we just look at the Daily Independent newspaper, federal government to cut 2024 budget deficit to 3.88% by GDP. But the story, the other story there, 8.8 trillion naira, 298.4 billion naira privatization proceeds to fund deficit. Capital project at risk with 45% debt service of 18.32 trillion revenue. So spending most of our revenue to substantial chunk of our revenue to service debt. Ruben and Rufai, if we have so much time. COP28. President Bola Tinubu is already
about the same time
on his way.
We're also having the OPEC Plus meeting taking place. The OPEC Plus meeting is going to be a virtual meeting. Now, for OPEC Plus, the major consideration will be production cuts. And OPEC has been dealing with issues, with prices and demand and supply issues. Some of the African countries, Angola and Nigeria specifically, are saying, look, further production cuts beyond the 2 million barrels per day that have been agreed upon previously, and the voluntary additional cuts by countries like Saudi Arabia can only put other countries under pressure. And you recall that President Tinubu is projecting, on the basis of an assumption for the 2024 budget, of 1.78 million barrels per day. So I guess it makes sense that we're interested in this, even with our foreign
But we're not even meeting our 2 million target.
Well, if there are further production cuts, that could adversely affect us, perhaps. But the meeting is taking place, the COP20.
The COP20.
Also, at a time when a report, a study published in the British Medical Journal, front page of The Guardian of the UK today, says that about 5 million people now die annually as a result of carbon dioxide emissions, as a result of fossil fuel emissions. So decarbonization is bound to be a major issue at COP28. And, world leaders will be put under further pressure to take action, because we keep having these promises, but not enough has been done in terms of equity, in terms of climate adaptation, in terms of funding for the underprivileged countries of the world that tend to suffer more. But I think it's more appropriate, finally, to talk about Henry Kissinger, who died May 27, 1923 to November 29, 2023, 100 years. And he remained very active, till the very end. In 2022, he was still talking about Russia, Ukraine, advising Ukraine to cede land. In 2023, January, he was still talking about, at the World Economic Forum, about the need not to, isolate Russia. And this is a man who helped the U.S., to plan its international strategy. First man to be National Security Advisor and Secretary of State to two presidents, Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford, a formidable intellectual, in addition to everything, who helped to achieve detente with China and to help ease the tensions of the Cold War and to take the United States out of the Vietnam War.
All right. Yes, an embodiment of international diplomacy.
But Because we have to holistically talk about Kissinger, but there's no time. Some others too will call Kissinger a war criminal. Some others too remember the role Kissinger played in Chile, you know, how Salvador Allende was ousted and they put in Augusto Pinochet that caused Chile a lot of problem, and the role America played in there. Some other will talk about the Paris Agreement, that the only reason why Kissinger and Nixon decided to pull out of Vietnam was because they were disgraced. And some others will also question the Nobel Prize given to Kissinger. So history is divided across board with Kissinger. But rest well, continue to rest Kissinger. We have to go.
Many of his critics consider him a pessimist and a complicated pragmatist in many of the books that have been written.